A story about moving a privy? Hey, welcome back to Writer's Theory. I'm James Winterthorn, and I'm here sharing my journey of writing a novel in just 90 days. About 15 days ago, I started writing a Western, um, following along with a course that I created earlier in the year. And I am 16 days into that effort now. And I'm going to share with you what I've done for day 16. So on day 15, we had our main character, Cole Mercer, meet Charles, a freedman, and they've introduced themselves and they're sharing a little bit about themselves and exploring that dynamic between these two characters. And today, I'm going to get more into that interaction and have that relationship build between these two. And then I'm going to get into my favorite story writing technique, apparently, because I do it so often, and that is having a character tell a story. In this case, it's Charles' story. So let's get into the first part of day 16. So again, I'm just picking up where I left off yesterday here. And I really wanted this to be an interesting dynamic between the two, where Mercer's really grateful for the help and is insisting that he is going to help Charles out. But Charles doesn't necessarily want to feel that he's indebted to him. He really just helped a person that needed help. And just as anybody might have done. So, but their interactions are still going on. Mercer's still getting to know where he's at and what's happening. Here, I introduced just a bottle of alcohol, what I imagine would be more readily easy to find, which is basically a moonshine, just a clear spirit. And so they're sharing a drink together here and sharing a little bit more about themselves. And here I'm really not, I have a tendency here to, like, the dialogue is so much and I'm just carrying forward with that I really need to make sure that I'm weaving in some actions and descriptions into the scene, so it's not just back and forth with the dialogue, because just dialogue by itself can tend to get a little tiresome as well. So you want to have there be a dynamic in the prose when you're writing, and that's my effort here, is to balance it out, because I think I've got enough with the interaction that I want to keep carrying that on, versus having a nice balance of description and narrative action and their dialogue. So I want all of these things to contribute to carrying the story forward, and not just have it be he said kind of a thing. It's just more engaging that way too. We get to feel the space a little better, and have the whole experience versus just seeing what they say. So having them share a drink together, having that be a little bit a part of the narrative, and I really want to focus on how Charles came to be in this place. And so he's going to share his story next. And I teased the privy, or, the outhouse, in the intro to this video. And so we're going to see that, at least part of that story told here. So let's get back to the rest of day 16. occasionally I have to go check on something. So when I get up and walk away, that's who knows what I'm doing. But I do like occasionally get pulled away and then have to get back into my space. So this is like, I didn't want to avoid former slave owning land and that not being a discussion. Plus, it's such a part of Charles's story that I wanted it to be a part of it here. I have no idea how I came up with this. Like, I just don't know. Like, this one just came to me, and I really intend on the story he's telling here. So I'm gonna just disclose to you now, these stories that are told, even though like they kind of feel like backgrounds for characters, there's foreshadowing events in all of these stories that are going to come forward in the later narrative. And part of that is me foreshadowing. I think the other part of it is me justifying this type of writing style. And when I started this story, I didn't know who these characters were. So for me to get to know them, I do need to spend some time in their backstories. And without the pre-work, this is an excellent technique to get to do that. So if you're following along here, Charles has done this deed for the slave owner, and it's a pretty dark thing, and we're gonna have yet to see how this plays out in the story because the story is not done yet. But this part in this of the story is going to play a big role later on. I have an idea how that's going to work, but since I'm not entirely sure yet, I'm not going to share that. Plus, like, I don't want to spoil anything for the story later. So, as far as techniques, I am still just really focused on keeping this story in Charles's voice, versus, going back to the narrative style that I've been using the entire story. I want this story to be told as he's telling it, as we might hear his voice. So that's kind of how this day has gone down. So let's transition now to the line of the day. We'd throw sawdust from the mill to keep the odor from spreading to the rest of the ground. And so I like this line because it's such a practical thing for what is ultimately this disparity between the person that has to clean up the waste of the rich people here and trying to hide that odor with sawdust so it doesn't get to the main house. It's just an interesting line that is also just a very practical thing that you might do if you have a privy hole and you don't want the odor to spread. You just use sawdust. So that's the line of today. And so for tomorrow's writing, I'm going to carry on and finish this story. At least that's my intent here, and see just what happened to Charles back when he was a slave, and how he came to the spot where he's at now, where he can be Mercer's benefactor while he heals from these wounds. So looking forward to that session of writing and sharing that with you. If you are interested in what I'm doing here and you're curious about the course that I'm talking about, that I'm using, I'll put a link in the description below for N90 Novel Roadmap. And if you haven't already and you want to follow me on this journey, please like and subscribe to the videos, and I will see you tomorrow. Otherwise, just like and subscribe.